I'm currently sitting with Councilman Kenson Siver, who is running for re-election. I was hoping he would answer a couple of questions. He's agreed to. I'm very grateful for that. So let's get started.
Well, hello, Greg. Thank you for this opportunity to meet with you this morning, and I'm very happy to talk about my upcoming re-election to a fourth term on the Southfield City Council.
Great. So first off, I thought that you can give the audience a little bit of your background. I know you worked with the schools for a while, so I was wondering if you could discuss that for a bit.
I came to Southfield in 1967. I was hired as an English and Social Studies teacher at Thompson Junior High School. I taught there for 10 years. I also have a degree in journalism, and our Thompson Times newspaper and our Thompson Titan yearbook won numerous state and national awards in scholastic journalism. Because of my keen interest in the student press, I was involved in the National Journalism Education Association. In that organization, I served as president from 1987 to 1993. But back to Southfield, I went on to, in 1977, I became the Community Relations Officer for the Southfield School District. And at the same time, I had moved to Southfield High School, where I was advising the student newspaper. Excuse me. In 1986, I became Director of Information Services for the Southfield Public Schools, and in 2004, I became Deputy Superintendent of Schools. Among my accomplishments as Deputy Superintendent was to totally revamp the Board of Education's policy manual. I also administered a $105 million building upgrade program, bond issue program. The biggest piece of that was the rebuilding of Southfield High School with the new technology and science labs and field house. Also, as Deputy Superintendent, I was a school spokesperson, which I served as for over 30 years, and I was very involved in just the operations side of the house, not the curriculum side, but everything from meals to warehouse to student transportation. I also was a key link for parent concerns and issues, as well as administered or adjudicated the severe student discipline cases. So that was my school or professional history in a nutshell. I retired from the Southfield Public Schools in September 2011 after 45 years with the school district.
Great. I also was wondering if you could describe what you feel the city needs in particular. What are you working now towards, and also, if you get reelected, what do you think you're going to work towards?
All right. That's a two-part question, and I'll try to be brief. But I want to mention that all during my professional career, I was also a community activist. I live in Magnolia neighborhood. I've been on the board continuously in Magnolia neighborhood since 1974. And I mention that because I believe, and it was true then, and it's just as true, if not more so today, in viable neighborhoods. We must protect our neighborhoods. A community is made up of many neighborhoods, be it condo neighborhoods or apartment communities or single-family homes. And if we do not have viable neighborhoods, we are in trouble as a city. And unfortunately, the mortgage crisis or foreclosure crisis has really had a terrible impact on our communities. So as a city council member, concerned citizen, I do many things on the local level to protect our neighborhoods. Obviously, starting with my own, but citywide, I've chaired for a long time, up until this year, the Council's Neighborhood Services Committee. We have done a number of things to strengthen our appearance ordinances. We also have worked with realtors. I've given a number of tours to realtors that were not city tours per se, they were neighborhood tours. I want the first contact many new residents have with Southfield is through a realtor. I want the realtors to know what a dynamic city we have and the variety of housing stock. So this is it's important going forward as I seek another 4 years on City Council, but it's always been important to me. Before I was first elected to Council in 2001, I was doing many things for the neighborhood. For instance, I developed a model for when we lost a lot of trees due to Dutch elm disease. I developed a tree planting model that was adopted by the city. I was involved, an early involver in recycling in Southfield, supporting our recycling center that we, at the time, we didn't have the curbside collection, but we had a center over at the Berg for recycling glass and newspaper. That started in the 70s. I'm also a big believer in knowing your community, so I've written 3 community histories, and the biggest being the 50th anniversary book for the city. So it's not only about promoting our neighborhoods, but it's also about promoting our city, and that we have a lot going for us in Southfield, and we need to appreciate and know our history and look positively at our accomplishments, but not sit on our laurels. So that's kind of a long answer. So I'll just take a little pause to say, going forward, what do I see? Well, the number one concern of council, and Greg, you're very aware of this because of all the meetings that you've attended, is that the city of Southfield, through no fault of its own, has been hit with a double whammy. When the national and economy and the Michigan economy tanked, the state lowered its state shared revenue payments to the city. Our road funds were also diminished because of people driving less in Michigan and fuel efficiency. People are buying less gasoline. Gasoline consumption, believe it or not, is down in Michigan, partly due to price, but also because cars are more fuel efficient. And the taxes on gasoline impact the road revenues. Southfield gets something called Act 51 dollars. We also have a road millage, a 1 mil road millage in Southfield that, with the decline in property values, has not been able to generate as much money for road repair. At the same time, as I just mentioned, property values being down, our our overall city revenues are down by a third, or rather two-thirds. We have a third of what we used to have. Our community development federal funds, block grant funds, are down roughly two-thirds as well. So it's really a testament to the city that we have been able to hold it together. With things like the big trash collection we eliminated a number of years ago, the fireworks, shortening the library hours. We've trimmed here and there, but most people do not see any reduction in services. And a top priority of council now and going forward will be public safety. Our fire department and our police department, our EMS, these are top priorities for the city. There is really so much to say, but neighborhoods, city services, and certainly we need to generate, find new sources of revenue. And another thing that I will be working on, with the change in the economy, we have seen an increase in the number of rental homes in Southfield. I welcome people who are renting to our city, but sometimes the landlords, and not in all cases, so I don't want to make a blanket statement, I want to make a qualified statement. In some cases, the landlords do not live here. This is very true, by the way, of many of our large apartment complexes. They're owned by people who live out of state. Not all of the landlords, be it apartments or single-family homes, have the best interests of the community in mind. And the City Council, and I'm one of the people that I think has had the loudest voice on this, along with the mayor, is that we are committed to putting pressure on landlords to maintain their properties, not only for appearance issues, but also for the safety of the people who dwell in these apartments and single-family homes. So there's a lot more I could say on this, but those are some of my key initiatives going forward.
All right. I also hear a lot in council about regional competition and about competing for dollars and population. Mm-hmm. I was wondering if you could describe your feelings on that a bit.
Well, I'm thrilled with what's happening in downtown Detroit. I love the turnaround, and what Dan Gilbert and others, or Roger Penske and the Detroit Economic Development Corporation, all of the things that they have accomplished. The downside to that, however, is we are seeing the loss of businesses, and in some cases it's not businesses, but it's part of the business shifting to downtown. And so Southfield right now is faced with quite a bit of about 20% vacancy in our office space, particularly in the smaller office buildings on mile roads, and some of our big towers as well. So one of the things that we are very cognizant on council is that we need to retain and attract businesses. And so we have a number of efforts going forward where we are doing that. And we also need to make our council, or rather our ordinances, very user-friendly from the development standpoint. So, for instance, one of the things that we've approved in the last year is the overlay district, where it allows greater flexibility to developers in in trying to build and invest in Southfield. As an example, our zoning only permits certain businesses locating and certain setbacks and height restrictions. In an overlay district, you have greater flexibility. So we've just approved a project on Evergreen Road that is our first test of the overlay district. It will allow something we haven't allowed before. It will allow residential above retail. It's called mixed use. I really favor this. Some people may not like to live above retail. Others love it. So it's another housing option for us. We're also working with another project of ours is the PACE program. This is a program to retrofit existing buildings for energy efficiencies. And we've partnered with an agency on this, and we have one office building right now involved in doing a retrofit. The idea is that you put money in up front, but you recoup your savings and more, or your expense rather, in the savings that you generate from the energy consumptions, the heat and light a building. So these are the sort of things that we're doing. We're also doing a lot of networking, and we have plans to improve our website, to promote relocating to Southfield, and that may sound minor, except that it's very significant. People make decisions today, or businesses make decisions today on where to locate without even going to a community. They go to a website and they garner information. And so our web presence is extremely important, what we put out there and how user-friendly it is. So, and then, as you know, Greg, we are in the next year we are going to step up city marketing. And it's going to be different marketing. A lot of it will be electronic marketing. We need to make sure that people are aware that we're here. We want to attract you either as a resident or a business, and that we are open for business, and we want to grow our population as well as grow our business base.
Thanks. I was also hoping that you could describe your position on abatements. I know it's a controversial issue, and I just sort of kind of wanted some clarification.
I am happy to talk about tax abatements. I have not approved every one that has come along, but I've approved the majority of them, and I'm not at all reluctant to tell you why. Tax abatements, when they make sense, and sometimes it's a little questionable whether the company really would go someplace else, but it's an economic tool that the state has developed, and I will support tax abatements when they bring significant investment or redevelopment in an existing structure, when they bring jobs, and when they improve the overall value of the company's presence and the taxable value of the company's presence in Southfield. Most tax abatements bring jobs, and a number that we've approved recently were very high-paying jobs. We need those in Southfield. Most tax abatements also come with significant amount of reinvestment. And the misnomer about tax abatements is that the company is not they're not off the hook to pay taxes. They're paying taxes on everything they have here, but what's abated for either 3 or 5 years, depending on the terms, is the taxes on the new investment. So in other words, while they're investing in a building in Southfield, we are forgiving the taxes only on the new investment. After 3 or 5 years, then that investment is taxed. So when you do the math, we're spending money in the sense that we're foregoing tax revenue on part of the tax bill for an increased tax bill after 3 or 5 years. It makes sense. Again, it's a little controversial because I think some of the companies threaten to go someplace else when they really are interested in being here. But I don't always think it's worth that gamble. And especially when I see jobs and reinvestment coming into the community at a relatively small cost. And one final thing I would add is that in a number of the tax abatements that the city has offered, our portion is very small compared to the state portion. Some of the companies that have received tax abatements in Southfield have gotten a tax abatement for maybe $15,000, $20,000 a year, and have received $1 million or several $1 million in incentives from the state of Michigan for their job creation program and business retention program. So it's we're to a degree, we're not on every case, but we're partnering with the state as well as Oakland County on business development.
I was also hoping that you might be able to not answer a few questions, but just sort of kind of describe why you took the vote you did when it came to Walmart, and what was sort of going through your mind.
Well, that was a hard vote, but I'll tell you what I was concerned about. I think the residents' concerns regarding not so much the traffic on Southfield Road. I disagree with some of the residents about that. Southfield Road is a 6-lane road, 7-lane with a turn lane that Oakland County Road Commission tells us the volume is down on that road. It's not the volume of traffic, it's the bottleneck at 12 Mile in Southfield. My counter to Walmart, which they rejected, I had several suggestions for them. One was to build, they were willing to pay money for traffic improvements, but they were not willing to finance a double left turn lane. In high travel, think let's say Oakland Mall on 14 Mile. A number of the entrances to Oakland Mall have a double left turn lane. It allows for more traffic to move at the same time, thus lessening the bottleneck. That bottleneck, without addressing the bottleneck, I mean, they were willing to put in traffic lights, but new traffic signals, great, but which is a considerable expense. It's $80,000 to $100,000. But if that bottleneck was not addressed, I can tell you with all certainty that cars trying to turn on 12 Mile northbound on Southfield would be making the trip, their turn through Westbrook Parkway and Rock Creek to get to 13 Mile Road or to Webster. It happens now. So the impact on the neighborhood, the bottleneck at 12 Mile, and the other reason I voted against Walmart was that I felt the store was too large for the site. and I had discussed with them building a smaller establishment. They would not budge on that. The other thing that I objected to was the placement of the store itself on the site. Its back faced 12 Mile. We would, and I know they talked about planting bushes and doing some landscaping, but I'm sorry. This would have been a 25-foot brick wall facing 12 Mile for 100, 200 feet or more. I've forgotten the exact length of that, the rear of the building. I just could not support that. And I would add that I was really swayed by what the residents had to say as well. But besides my own reasoning, it's not. I discounted anything said about Walmart's business practices. This was not about that. But the other issues that residents raised resonated with me. And I will note that the amount of community feedback on Walmart we have not seen in this city in decades. The last two times I can remember in my 40-some year history here was in 1970 when 1,000 apartment units were proposed for Bobbrick Woods property, where people just packed the city council in opposition to this. It was called the Evergreen Giant, is what they termed it. All the neighbors did not want that huge development there, and the council listened. And the other was in the mid-'70s over low-income housing in Southfield. Scores of people turned out with their concerns about low-income housing. And we have not seen anything at council like that until this Walmart debate. And I have no regrets about my decision I felt it was the right decision, and I still feel it's the right decision. Yes, I'd like to see that property redeveloped. Yes, I would like to see a mixed use there of retail and housing, but something on a smaller, more manageable scale, not another big box on Southfield Road.
All right. I was also hoping that you might be able to describe somewhat your position on sidewalks, and also describe, well, I want you to talk about sidewalks. I just also want you to sort of kind of talk a little bit about the fiscal side of it as well. Well,
for years, Southfield has had a sidewalk replacement program, and for several reasons. One is obviously safety. Over the years, due to freezing and thawing and tree roots, sidewalks can heave. When people trip and fall on sidewalks, not only do they injure themselves, but there's a liability to the homeowner and to the city for slip and fall accidents. Obviously, we don't want broken legs. We don't want people hurting themselves, scraping, getting scrapes or whatever. But we also want a walkable community. People should be able to not walk in the street. They should be able to walk on their sidewalk, take a baby stroller down the sidewalk. When I had a leg injury and I was confined to a wheelchair, I appreciated the fact, I mean, I couldn't stand being cooped up in the house, so since it was summer, I took my wheelchair and wheeled myself around the neighborhood on the sidewalks, and I was able to do that because in Magnolia neighborhood where I live, we had done a sidewalk replacement program. And so for years we did this. It's about a walkable city, it's about safety, it's about appearances, but we've slacked off it for a bit because the economy crashed. A lot of people were out of work in the mid-2000s, after particularly by 2007-8, and so we backed off it because sidewalks are generally replaced by a special assessment. In other words, the homeowner, as I had to do as a Southfield homeowner, I had to cough up roughly $1,900 to when I was hit with a special assessment for sidewalk replacement. Personally, I was glad to have the new sidewalks. In my case, the sidewalks were in the slabs themselves were in pretty good condition, but tree roots had heaved the sidewalk to some pretty dangerous angles. And so I was grateful that the city would come and do this for me at a reduced cost than if I had done it myself. The city also offers a low interest loan, so you can pay the sidewalk replacement back in installments, which is something I think is very beneficial to our residents.
All right, thanks. The allotted time for this interview is sort of kind of coming, so I was just wondering if there was anything else you wanted to talk to the residents about.
Yeah, I just conclude with very briefly why I'm seeking re-election. I love this city. I've spent my whole adult life here since I was 21 when I came to Southfield. And I'm very passionate about our community. I'm sort of the unofficial Southfield historian. I believe in our neighborhoods. We have a wonderful city here with great city services, and I don't believe in greener pastures. I believe that you, through the power of one, you dig into your community and you make it as viable and as pleasant a place to live as possible. And so I've accomplished a number of things in the 12 years that I've been on council, as well as all the years before as a concerned resident and neighborhood activist, whether it's been on the Martin Luther King Task Force or in the Southfield Historical Society or the Southfield Parks and Garden Club, the Area Council PTA, Magnolia Neighborhood Association, among the many organizations that I continue to be active in. So for those reasons, I'm seeking re-election. And again, Greg, I thank you very much for this opportunity to talk to you and share with others why I'm running again for a seat on the Southfield City Council.
All right, thanks.
You're
Appreciate
welcome.
it.